Okay, Melinda, you can start the meeting. We're ready to go.
Okay, I am calling to order the meeting of the Forest Grove School District Budget Committee. And pardon? Oh, okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and
nation under God,
indivisible,
Justice for all.
Okay, great. Next up is introduction, and I will start with myself. And I'm Melinda Fisher. I am a former parent with kids in the Forest Grove School District and just community member. And if we could go, I don't know if everybody has, if you guys could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Dave Parker, Superintendent. Brad Farrell, Board.
Narsa Rodriguez, elected board member.
Valerie Ingram, board member.
Kate Grandusky, board member.
Mark Everett, board member.
Mike Conroy, Budget Committee member.
Kyle Johnstone, parent.
Deborah Sims, Budget Committee member.
All right, is that it? Okay. Next up on the is the approval of the agenda. So
I move that we approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Second.
great. Any discussion? All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call to for the approval of the agenda. I'm going to start off with Kyle Johnston.
I'm here.
Is it an A or nay?
I approve.
Okay,
Yay.
great. Deborah Sims,
Yay.
Carrie O'Day, absent. Mike Conroy,
Yay.
Kate Grandusky,
Yes.
Brad Cicero,
Yes.
Valerie Ingram,
Yes.
Nars Rodriguez.
Yes.
Great. All right, all those are approved, and the agenda was approved. So next up is the approval of the April 13th, 2020 meeting minutes.
So moved.
So moved. Any second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, so we're going to go through this again, yay or nay. Kyle Johnston,
Yes. Yay.
Deborah Sims,
Yay.
Carrie O'Day is absent still. Mike Conroy,
Yay.
Mark Everett,
Yes.
Kate Grandusky,
Yes.
Brad Bafaro,
Yes.
Valerie Ingram,
Yes.
Nars Rodriguez.
Yes.
Great. And it is all the meeting minutes are approved. Next up on our agenda is the budget message with David Parker, Superintendent.
Your mic, Dave.
Oh, Zoom meetings. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we present the proposed 2021 budget during unparalleled times. In developing this budget, our focus continues to be on the district's purpose that we developed during our strategic planning process, and that is our school district is rooted in community and committed to giving our students experiences that enable them to grow strong and become confident, lifelong learners, equipping them with the knowledge and skills necessary for their future. As of the publication of this document, we face unprecedented challenges at the local, national, and global levels. Economic factors are more uncertain and complex than possibly they've ever been. The impacts of COVID-19 are only just beginning to be seen on the long-term effects remain kind of a mystery to all of us. While only a few months ago, we were looking to enhance and expand programs through the Student Investment Account, a new source of funding, we find ourselves now facing budget challenges resulting from negative financial impacts of COVID-19. With our SIA funds, we plan to focus on at-risk students with the knowledge that the programs and changes that we're implementing will improve the educational experience for all students. We need to be creative and resilient as we plan for what we hope will be short-term negative impacts on our funding. It's important that we don't lose sight of the highlights of the 2019-20 school year. This year, the district received $2.1 million seismic grant to improve the gym at Tom McCall Upper Elementary School. We received a $10,000 grant from the Forest Grove Booster Club for K-8 field trips and kind of enhancement activities. The local businessman, Steve Van Doren, provided a $10,000 grant to provide our tennis shoes for students in need. The Ingram family presented the district with $75,000 to build a golf driving range. Joseph Gale School qualified for free meals for all students. And as of tonight, we're actually upwards of 53,000 meals we've served since we were put out of school with the mandated school closure. 53,000 school meals have been served. The 2021 budget was built with our strategic plan, which provides the foundation and direction. Oregon's next economic forecast is due on May 20th. Therefore, this budget is built on the official estimate issued by the Oregon Department of Education, and that was issued on February 26th. The 2019-21 biennial budget and school fund distributions are predicated on a $9 billion state appropriation. This amount has not yet been amended by the legislature as of tonight. However, there is a strong possibility that Oregon will experience somewhere between a $1 and $3 billion deficit in this in property, personal income tax collection, property taxes, business taxes, a dollar amount that represents approximately 5 to 15% of the state's budget. More will be known next Wednesday when this first forecast comes out. But at this time, we don't really know what that number is going to be. They will also likely have a special session sometime after next Wednesday. We're hearing that it's going to be sometime in June, but it could be early July before we get to that special session. And in this special session is where they will determine how to absorb and mitigate the shortfall that we're expecting. District staff are proposing a budget that allows the district to continue services to students and move forward on our continuous improvement plan based on our current estimates that was given to us by ODE. At the same time, staff have been working to establish potential reductions when the state legislature determines how much they will be reducing the state school fund grant in the 2021 fiscal year. We're working on 5, 10, and 15% plans, depending upon what this legislature may come back with. Our staff, students, currently we're putting on hold all hiring, all spending. It's not mandatory for our district. Our goal right now is to increase our ending fund balance as much as possible so that we can, in turn, lower the impact of what the reduced state school fund will have on the district next fall. Our students, staff, and community have stepped up to meet the challenge that no one could have predicted. They have demonstrated grit, determination, and most of all, grace. Regardless of the many challenges that we have faced this spring, we are committed to bringing a budget that will best serve our students of our community. The steps taken will allow the district flexibility to move quickly as the economic story in Oregon continues to unfold. And that's respectfully submitted from Dave Parker.
All right, great. Thank you. Next up is Eileen Clute, Director of Finance with the Budget Review.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to, first of all, thank everyone for participating in this year's budget committee. It definitely has been an ever-changing couple of challenging months for all of us.
I think you're muted, Eileen.
Dang. Sorry.
You sounded great though, the first part.
Okay. Did you hear any of that or do I start all the way over?
I think you need to start all the way over, please.
Okay, sorry about that. First, I just wanted to thank everybody for participating on this year's budget committee. It really has been ever-changing last couple of months and challenging times as we work through these changes. First, I'll provide you guys with a quick update on this year's cash forecast. It is the base of the 2021 budget. Included in it is an ending fund balance projected to be about $8.4 million or 12.5% of revenue. This is up by $855,000 as compared to the cash forecast presented to you at the last meeting. The major difference from the last meeting that we had and tonight is the governor has now extended the closure of schools through June 30th, 2020 due to this COVID-19 pandemic. The prior forecast assumed that schools would reopen in late April. This cash flow doesn't include the furlough days through the Oregon Workshare program that was approved this week by both the board and unions as a mechanism to start to conserve funds in this current fiscal year. Any savings that we do generate this year will support any anticipated shortfall in the state resources next year. Wanted to take a quick reminder of what was presented to you in March about the roles and responsibilities of the budget committee before we move forward. Responsibilities of the budget committee include receiving the proposed budget from the budget officer as prepared by administration. The budget committee then reviews, analyzes, and discusses the proposed budget. The budget committee considers additional input and then deliberates. The budget committee is required to listen to the community and hold public comment. And then finally, the budget committee recommends a level of spending, appropriations, and tax rate amounts to the board for adoption. And then just a quick reminder of what's not the budget committee's role. The budget committee doesn't set salaries or benefits or contract terms for employees, doesn't decide whether or not a program or service should be provided, or make or alter district goals and policies. Those are really the priorities and things that the board and administration are in charge of. As stated in the last slide, the budget committee's role is to approve and recommend appropriations to the school board for the next fiscal year. Appropriations set the maximum amount of spending by major fund and function. Example of this is a dollar amount for general fund instruction, general fund support services, or special revenue instruction, special revenue support services. So it's setting those appropriations, the max spending amount for those categories. Once the budget is presented, it's really in the budget committee's hands. The budget committee has a few options. you can approve the budget as it's proposed. You can increase the appropriation if you think we'll get more funds. You can decrease the appropriation if you think we'll get less funds, or you can move funds between functions. After the budget is approved by the budget committee, it goes to the board for adoption, and then this is what sets the final spending limits for the board and administration. After it's adopted, the board can make adjustments to the budget if major changes occur that don't exceed 10% of the adopted budget. So the board can go back and amend the budget. All right, now on to the 2021 proposed budget. Major budget assumptions proposed in this include considering all feedback from the community, staff, and board over the last year. This included feedback that we received from the strategic planning process, the student investment account outreach, and our board and budget meetings. This proposed budget is based on $9 billion state school fund allocation. It is the last published state update from the Department of Education. Additionally, it is the funding level that is required for the district to continue service as is. That is our current service level. The budget doesn't account for any state school fund shortages that may arise from this COVID-19 economic situation. It does maintain current class sizes, and it maintains our 8% minimum fund balance as required by board policy. And then it considers some of the 1920 financial savings as a result of the closure. That's the items that were known and definite as of last week. It does not include the furloughs again. That was finalized this week. As a reminder of what our community feedback has been over the last year that was considered in this budget proposal to you is our strategic plan, which includes constructing a mental health and behavior model. It includes building safe and welcoming school environments, producing well-rounded lifelong learners, and developing communities that value cultural proficiency, identity, safety, bilingualism, and inclusion. Our school improvement plans were also considered in this process. These are our 5 goals in our district school improvement plan this year. It includes all students who graduate high school ready for college, career, and civic life. Our underserved student EL population will achieve higher growth and outcomes. All students will have access to enhanced social, emotional systems of support to promote self-regulated classroom-ready behaviors, to promote early learning preschools at 2 of our most impacted elementary schools, and to underserved student populations will achieve higher outcomes as measured by SBAC, ELA, and math assessments. Our community feedback around our SSA planning this year was also considered during this budget process. We did 2 surveys, one to parents and community and one to students. And these were the top 5 answers for their priorities within our district. Parents and community included meeting students' mental and health needs, reducing class size, hiring specialists for additional opportunities, providing structure, and well-rounded education. Our students was pretty consistent with that. Theirs were well-rounded education, reducing student fees to lower barriers, meeting students' mental and behavioral health needs, hiring specialists, and providing teachers and staff sufficient time for PD. And lastly, for the community feedback portion is the budget committee. These are the discussions and information that we talked about in the last 2 meetings: class size, financial stability, equity and inclusion, library access, and admin and staff tools to work effectively. Okay, so now on to the numbers. The 2021 proposed budget is $123 million. This is about 5% from the prior year of $117 million. Of this 123 is of the $123 million, the district's operating account for the general fund consists of 64%. The remaining of the funds is set aside for specific purposes, whether it's special revenue grant, food service, debt, capital projects, community, or others. Of that 123 million, 53% is spent directly on instruction and 27% for support services. And those are those major functions and includes all funds. Again, all funds of that 123 million, 65% is spent on salaries and benefits. 23% of that is associated payroll, 41% salaries. And then the other large items is professional services at 11.5% and debt services at 10%. Now to talk more specifically about the general fund portion, that's our operating budget. That's what we have the most control over. The proposed budget includes an ending fund balance of $6 million. It's 8.5% of revenue. It includes a greater fund balance than the 8% board policy because any additional savings that we've seen or increase in revenue over and above our current service level, knowing the current economy and the current situation, we maintained that as our ending fund balance to help support any potential reductions in the state school fund. The resources a little bit more in detail. Our total resources is $79.6 million. It is up 3.2% overall from the prior year. Major adjustments or assumptions in the resources for the proposed budget for next year include the $9 billion state school fund. Local property taxes, we did decrease the typical increase that we would put on property taxes annually than what we would normally. And that is to account for a potential reduction in collection rates. So the last 3 years, we've received collection rates at 4.9% higher than the prior year, 5.8%, and 5.1%. This year, we're only increasing property taxes by 4%. High cost disability, due to the SSA funds and student SSA funds, it is estimated that the high cost disability carve out will go from 35 million to 55 million. That does increase our high cost disability grant award. And then finally, our interest rates. We did reduce our interest rates to 350,000 based on the last 3 years. And in just a little bit, I'll go into how interest rates have changed over this last couple of years so you can see why we've done that. Talking a little bit about the largest driver of our revenue, that's enrollment. The state school fund is based on our enrollment and the demographics of our enrollment. So when we're looking at our historical enrollment, we used to average about 6,000 students each year back from 2007 to 2010-11. Then in 12-13, we've seen a significant drop down to 5,700 students. And now we're kind of maintaining right at that 5,800 student level. As far as our demographics, though part of the state school fund formula includes additional weights or additional funding for students with English as a second language, pregnant and parenting, students on IEPs, foster, and poverty. This shows those changes over time in each one of those categories. The students on IEPs, the English as a second language, and the poverty rates are the biggest. The other two are less than 1% of our total enrollment. But you can see from here, our students on IEPs typically range around 15% of our 15% of our population. Our students with English as a second language has been dropping a little bit. It did bump up this last year. It was at 17.8%, and it's down to 16.3% this for 2020 projection. And then the last one is the poverty. That is the one that is the most volatile. It used to be based on 10-year census data, so it was pretty consistent for 10 years. In 2015, 2016, they changed the formula, so it's now based on an annual SAPI data, which now gets updated every single year. It's a lot harder to predict, but you can see since 2016, we have seen consistent declining in our poverty rates. And then the property taxes, this just goes over our historical property taxes, our collection rates. So you can see how, or not our collection, our property tax changes over year. So you can see what that historical has been. We have not seen a 4% increase in property tax since 2016-17. So we did push that we pushed it down to a 4% from the last couple of years, but there's still always some risk with that. High cost disability. This shows state education used to be 18 million in 15-16. They increased it to $35 million. And then with the student investment account for next, or Student Success Act funds for next year, it's estimated to go up to 55 million, which would bring the district just over $1 million in high cost disability grant. We did maintain the same percentage of state allocation as what we were seeing in 2019 and 2018 to be consistent as a projection for next year. And then interest rates. Pulled the Oregon LGIP historical interest rates. This is where most of our funds sit. And the rates used to maintain between a 0.5% and a 1%. In 2018, they grew all the way up to 2.75%. But since then, it continues to drop. Right now, it's at about 1.75%. And so that's why we're decreasing our projected interest rates for next year. Expenditures. The proposed budget does include $73.6 million in spend. This is up 7.1% of the current year's forecast. But please note the current year's forecast is reduced because of reduction in spending because of COVID-19 and the closures this year. So that isn't necessarily a good indicator of a typical year. Significant expenditure assumptions built into this budget include maintaining all current staffing, programs, and class size averages. It does include a reasonable cost of living increase. We are still working with our unions and nothing has been negotiated and or step for next year. It does include an increase in FTE. There's a 1.0 licensed and 2 part-time classified FTE. This was built in to support the reduction in funding for our long-term care and treatment grant. It includes maintaining the 8% ending fund balance. And finally, it includes some appropriations to support future bond planning. Other than this, it truly is a current service level budget moving into next year. Average class size is built into this budget. Kinder through 4th is at 24.5 to 1. This is significantly down from 2017-18, where it was at 28.9 to 1. And that is truly due to board and leadership community value on that class size. Our grades 5-6 is budgeted at 29 to 1. 7-8 is at 25.7 to 1. And 9-12 is at 24.4 to 1. We do also include weighted averages, and this includes it for instructional time. So we know at the secondary level, teachers have prep time that kind of inflates the average class size in other classes. So to look at more of a real average, Neil Armstrong, grades 7-8 are at 30-1, and the high school is at 32.6-1 on average. Okay, FTE assumptions. In this budget proposal, it does include maintaining our current service level. It has 2.14 total FTE greater than the 1920 budget. It has all staffing that was in place as of March 30th, 2020. It does include those adjustments for the district's long-term care and treatment contract. It does include increase in administrative support. This isn't an increase in FTE district-wide. It's just a move from grant funded to general fund. And this is because to support the expansion of the mental health and behavior program. This FTE, since it's no longer directly related to students on IEPs, cannot be funded from IDEA funds. It does increase confidential hours, a couple hours for the EL coordinator in 1920 to support work around supporting students of underserved populations. A quick overview of historical salaries and benefit costs. Our benefits as a percentage of our salaries is about 57.3%. This is up this biennium as compared to the last biennium. That is directly related to the biennial PERS increase. Our historical PERS contribution rates, I did want to show how this has changed over time. We just a couple of years ago had our OPSERP rates at 13.87%, and now they're up to 18.75%. And then our tier 1, tier 2 rates were at 19.2%, and now they're up to 24.2%. When we take into account our PERS contribution rates plus our PERS unfunded actuarial liability, our debt service payment, and look at the combination of those two as related to our salaries, our total PERS cost is about 5.7, or accumulated PERS cost is about 24.2% of payroll. Some history around our ending fund balance. Included in this is the actual ending fund balance each year as compared to what we had budgeted each year. This is that same information, but in a graph. So you can see outside of 2009, 2010, 2010, and 11, we consistently budget conservatively each year and we save throughout the year. The savings are then applied and appropriated to the following year, and we budget back down to that 8%. A little information, how we compare to other districts. This information is from Forecast 5. The last year that they have in the system is 2018 for comparable data, but it does show us compared to both our local districts and our comparable districts on what we spend on average per student in the district. And this is general fund spend. So in 2018, we spent $10,393 per student. It is slightly above average, but it also accounts for the demographics and additional funding that we receive from those demographics in that number.
I have a question. How does that include salaries of teachers or a proportion of teachers and aides within the district? That $10,000 fee, amount?
That's the district's total general fund spend. So it would be everything.
Everything, okay. And so that would be per student?
Per student, correct.
Okay.
And then this is a same comparable districts, and it shows how we spend our general fund broken out by instruction and support services and other. The Forest Grove School District spent 64.7% of our operating budget on instructional related services and 35% on support services. And this is pretty consistent and in line with all of our other local districts or comparables here. Okay, so that's it for our general fund. The last thing I wanted to talk about the budget real quick is other funds and major changes. Our other funds outside the general fund is our grant service, our food service, our debt service, capital, our Viking house and plant sale, our internal service, and then our scholarship and trust funds. Pretty much everything in this budget stays fairly consistent with prior year. The major change is in our grant funds, and it's because our grant funds now include student investment account funds. We did budget that at the 100% of our allocation. And then it also includes our Coke funds and student body funds being transferred over to the grant funds. With new GASB guidance, we are transferring those funds over to the general fund outside of the internal service and scholarship accounts. Okay, COVID-19, what we know now, what we're doing, and what we still need to know to move forward. So we do know that the 2021 budget is going to be impacted. So what's presented to you tonight is based on the pre-COVID numbers that the state has published. So going into next year, we know that our revenue will be impacted as a result of these closures and increasing unemployment numbers across the state. Our current estimate is about 8.5% shortfall for the biennium. Since we're moving into the second year of the biennium, this is really going to feel like a 17% biennial reduction if those estimates are correct. Now, there's still a lot of things that have to happen. The state does have rainy day reserves. They have state school fund reserves, and they're actually in a pretty good position compared to other states. What we're doing right now is we have implemented a spending freeze, hiring freeze. We are implementing the furloughs for the 1920 fiscal year through the Workshare program. That alone is projected to give us about $1 million. Additionally, we're planning with administration what those budget reduction scenarios are going to be for next year. There's still several things that we need to know before we start looking at and finalizing what that impact is going to be. The Federal CARES Act, the ESSER funds that have come to Oregon, our initial estimate is about $856,000. This will be grant funded. There will have rules of spending for it. We are waiting on final estimate and those rules. The state legislative revenue forecast will come out next Wednesday, May 20th. The state general fund, it will give us an impact. It'll give us a view of what the state general fund impact is going to be, lottery, other educational resources, and how those are going to change as compared to what we have had for projections in the past. The governor will then have her response. The legislator will then hopefully do a special session. This might be in June, possibly July, before they will convene, or we will know what the results are. The reserves may be applied. So this governor's education relief funds and the state reserves may be applied to offset some of the shortfall, but how much of that we don't know yet. And then if there's going to be any additional federal funding. When we look at our scenarios on what ifs about next year, we are starting to look at that 5, 10, and 15% reduction. A 5% reduction to the Forest Grove School District from the state school fund is $2.3 million. A 15% reduction in the state school fund to Forest Grove is just under $7 million. Other items that could be impacted by this is our student investment account. So that's our SSA funds or SIA funds. Our allocation is $4.9 million. That's what we have been working on for the last 6-8 months on trying to develop and doing all of the community engagement and getting excited for. That's what we have to risk in this. So if it's reduced by 50%, that's a $2.5 million loss to those funds. High school success, our Measure 98 funds is also out there that we're monitoring and trying to see how that will be impacted. And just as a view, high school success funds are already in place. So we have those staff, we have them here. We've been working through that for 2-3 years now. And 25% reduction in that account is just over $400,000. The budget document this year. So this year, I know it's different, and we have presented a new budget document this year. We had our board finance committee meet. They spent a lot of time over the fall and winter reviewing our district's budget, reviewing other districts' budgets, and trying to identify what the goals are for our budget moving into this next year. When they met, there were a few things that came out of it. One is to be more transparent in the budget document. The second is to include information about the district, including student results, strategic plan information, and a more in-depth financial summary, and then make it just a little bit easier to read. So in this year's budget, you will see it's got more text and some more language. It has more overview and information relating to the district. And then it does have additional supplemental information about our account structure and acronyms and those kind of things. So please take your time in looking through it and let me know if you have any questions. I'd be more than willing to sit down with anybody if needed. Okay, so moving on to the next steps. The budget committee will now discuss, deliberate, and then listen to the community, receive public comment around the budget. And then if you could determine what questions you need to be answered. And then the budget committee will approve a budget and recommend it to the school board for adoption. Administration in the meantime is going to continue to monitor state school fund updates, economic forecasts. We will continue to build our phases for reductions moving into next year. We will continue to maintain and conserve resources wherever possible, and then bargain with all groups. We'll start here soon. I do have another note on here about the potential, since all of the unknowns are out there, the board does have the option to consider reconvening the budget committee once it's been, once we have all of the revenue forecasts updated and received. If the budget does get approved prior, the budget committee will not have an official vote in this capacity, but it is an opportunity to allow the board to hear and consider feedback from the budget committee in reviewing those through that process. That is all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. Next up is budget committee requested information for the next meeting. What information do the budget committee members need for the next meeting?
So, well, I have a question. Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mark. I was gonna...
So next two budget meetings are Tuesday, the 19th and Thursday, the 21st. Do we want to have both of those meetings? Do we need to have both of those meetings? The state forecast comes out on is it the 20th?
Correct.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering the same thing. Like, can we choose to reconvene the budget committee after we get more information?
That was what I was going to say too. I think it makes complete sense to do it with slightly more accurate numbers. This is Kyle.
This is Brad. I'm just wondering, I've gone through this a couple times, and I'm just wondering at this point, does it make sense just to pass this budget with the idea that when we have more information, that we're going to need to come back and make the reductions if we have to? I think the worst thing to do would be to start to make reductions when we don't know what the number is really going to be, number one. Number two, going through a process of having more meetings when you don't have a clue what the number is going to be doesn't make sense to me either. I know that other districts have passed their budgets with the idea that they're going to come back and make the needed reductions once they have the more information. And quite frankly, I could see this going into July, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dave. But the way this is moving right now, we might not have a number in the middle of July that's solid. So
Correct.
That would be my comment. I would say I would support at least passing this budget the way it's written as just a rollover budget with the idea that you're going to come back in July and maybe even August to make reductions to get it in a feasible manner at that point. So that's my comment.
Okay, I have a quick question about that, Eileen. It says after adoption, the board can make budget adjustments if major changes occur that do not exceed 10% of the adopted budget. Do you foresee that happening?
So that 10% is really receiving 10% more revenue or increasing our appropriations by 10% or more. We can always spend less. That just gives us our maximum spending amount. But we would come to the board with a supplemental budget with these reductions. So the 10% is not an issue when we're reducing.
Okay, thank you.
So my thoughts on this are really around the timing of it, because we're probably not going to get the number until we're actually in the special session. And that could be June into early July. And so I think, again, as Eileen and I kind of talked this through, this idea of passing the current service level budget and then you, the board and the budget committee, I mean, we can reconvene if they run a special session in June, then we'll run meetings as soon as we know what the number is. There's a lot of work to be done if the cuts are as big as they are forecasting right now. So our move is going to be, as soon as we know that number, we're going to start convening these groups because we got to get rolling on it. But I am worried about the timing of this.
So if you had a budget, a budget that is passed, basically a rollover budget, with the intent of coming back once we knew what the number is, to make those adjustments, I just would support that in terms of having something set and then coming back and then making those reductions based on whatever the state comes back as a reduced number, excuse me.
So at this point, would we discuss this right now, or could I make a motion that we do that and then we discuss it?
I think we still need to hold public comment first.
Okay.
So,
I have a
yeah.
question. If we come back and reconvene in July, will that include the budget committee?
It can. It's just they wouldn't have a vote on when you finally approve the supplemental the supplemental budget. My understanding is that would be the board voting, but we can bring the committee back and we can present and problem solve, and you can get feedback from the folks who are here representing our community. That's not the problem. That's my understanding. Eileen, do you see it any differently?
No.
Okay, I just wanted you to realize that 3 of the positions expire June 30th on the budget committee. So, so I don't know, how you want to, if you want to bring them back, you have to recognize that.
Is there a way that we can find out what the process would be in a situation like that, Dave?
Brad, I think we can always do more and over and above what the legal requirements are. Our legal requirements are that our budget committee is through June 30th, but we can always keep reconvening them after if needed. But as of June 30th, they're technically not. It's the board choice.
We're actually not asking them to vote in a situation like that. We're just asking them for their feedback. So
Right.
I think in that situation, it wouldn't be a problem. That would be that's my opinion.
Okay. I just wanted to put that out there, okay?
Yep.
I don't disagree with anything that's been said, but I think we want to make it sort of quasi-official that we're extending their stay under this very unusual circumstance. That's all. And,
I agree with that.
with them still being involved and I totally agree with that, but I think we have to take some sort of official action to say, look, here's what we've decided to do. We've invited them to continue to serve in this capacity in this situation.
Mark, could we have a motion and at least vote on something like that, probably?
Well, I mean, I think so. I think maybe Dave and Eileen, maybe you can just double check that, but at some point, I think maybe that's what we should do. For those that are interested in continuing into July, I think there are 3 that their terms are technically up, but hopefully you want to continue and we just make it, official that we're recognizing that your term's up, but we want you to still be involved. So.
I like that.
Mark, my wondering is, since they are appointed at a regular board meeting, would you want to do that at the next regular board meeting?
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that.
I'm curious what our budget committee members.
My other comment is I kind of agree with Brett. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'd be interested to hear what the budget committee members are thinking about this idea that we've kind of thrown out and just get some feedback on that. Didn't mean to interrupt though, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is Melinda. I'm fine with that. I think that's a great idea. I'd like to continue and see it to the ending, or whatever ending we can possibly figure out by mid-July.
This is Deborah. I am also okay with continuing to July.
This is Mike, and I'm pretty sure that my term goes in to the following year anyways.
Yeah, okay, great.
Kyle, what do you think?
Sorry, I was trying to get unmuted. Yeah, I have a whole nother year on my term, and I have no issues extending it. My thoughts are, at the very least, if there's additional guidance coming out next week, that we postpone even just a little bit, maybe a week or two, to let Eileen have the opportunity to see some of the preliminary numbers. But even if that means extending all the way to July, I'm totally fine with that too. I've got no vacations planned now, so now.
Unfortunately.
That's awesome.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody's for it, in agreement. This is Valerie, by the way. So now would we make a motion to approve the budget as presented? And do I need to add in that we are going to resume or reconvene in July or June when we get more information?
Eileen, isn't there formal language?
We have to have public, we have to have one more meeting.
We don't necessarily have to have one more meeting, but we do have to take our public comment tonight. We advertised public comment would be held tonight, so we have to do that opportunity first.
Okay, so I'm going to
Is there-
go ahead and go into public comment. And this is the time now where we
Okay.
ask for public comment. And David Warner, I believe you've been monitoring the Google form. And have you received any comments? And also Kathy, you're monitoring the email account. Have we received any public comments?
No, there's no public comment on the Google form.
And there is no public comment in the email, but they will have another chance to comment because there will be a hearing before the board adopts it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so Eileen, was there a certain language that we need to use, or can I just make a motion to approve the budget as presented? Oh, I see it.
It will have to be made in 3 separate motions. So
Okay.
your option should be on the screen.
Okay, I move to approve the 2020 to 2022 budget as presented.
Second.
Sorry, 2020, 2021 budget.
I was kind of wondering. 2020 to 2021 budget.
I second. Larson.
All right, so we're going to go through a roll call again to make it to get, and you can say yay or nay. So unless there's any kind of discussion needed. So I'm going to start. Kyle Johnson,
Yay.
Deborah Sims,
Yay.
Terry O'Day, still absent? Okay. Mike Conroy,
Yay.
Mark Everett,
Yay.
Kate Grandusky,
Yay.
Brad Bafaro,
Yes.
Valerie Ingram,
Yes.
Arce Rodriguez.
Yes.
All right. That was passed. And
Okay.
should we go on to the second one?
Sure. I move to have the permanent tax rate on ad valorem taxes of 4.9142 per thousand be applied to the total property value determined by the Washington County Tax Assessor.
Second.
Great. All right. I'm going to go through roll call again. Say yay or nay. Kyle Johnson,
Yay.
Deborah Sims,
Yay.
Terry O'Day is absent. Mike Conroy,
Yay.
Mark Everett,
Yay.
Kate Grandusky,
Yay.
Brad Bafaro,
Yes.
Valerie Ingram,
Yes.
Arce Rodriguez.
Yes.
All right. That is passed. And number 3, does somebody want to move on that?
Sure. Valerie will move on it again. I move to levy the ad valorem taxes for debt services at $7,616,704.
Second.
Great. All right. I'm going through roll call again. Kyle Johnson, yay or nay?
Yay.
Deborah Sims,
Yay.
Terry O'Day is absent. Mike Conroy,
Yay.
Mark Everett,
Yay.
Kate Grandusky,
Yay.
Brad Vaccaro,
Yes.
Valerie Ingram,
Yes.
Narce Rodriguez.
Yes.
Great, it is passed. All right, Eileen, you are up with next meeting.
Well, since we did this meeting, we don't have to have next Tuesday and Thursday's meeting. However, we will let everybody know and reconvene as soon as we have more information.
Okay.
So I think
I have a comment before we. I don't know if this is the right time. I just want to.
can you mute Eileen? Go ahead, Brad.
I just thought the budget layout, Eileen, the way you had that laid out and the adjustments you made it a lot clearer, and it was just a lot cleaner to read for the regular layperson. So I just want to make that comment and get it on the record that the adjustments that were made on that budget document were awesome. So just a comment. That's it.
I agree.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything further?
So I think I just wanted to make sure we got the to-do list right, which is next Wednesday we'll get this this indication of where the state funds are at, and then Eileen and I will put together some kind of new plan of how to bring the budget committee together, and then our board at some point down the road when this information begins to come out. So we'll kind of structure a new process. And then last but not least, do we still need to do something at the next board meeting to take action to kind of make it official that we're going to bring the budget committee back together to talk through the supplemental, like Mark? Is that what you want us to do, Mark?
Yeah, I think so. I think to get
Okay.
that on the record, that's what we intend to do, so the public knows that. And because, it's posted that their terms do end, and we
Yep.
just want to extend them. So,
We will get it set up.
yeah.
All right, anything further? All right, I am adjourning this meeting.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.